Welcome to the Joy of Cooking podcast. Each week we set the table for a discussion about recipes and stories from the authors of The Joy of Cooking, kitchen victories and misadventures, and what we're cooking and eating right now. We're glad you've joined us at the table today. I'm Shannon Larson, home cook, Joy of Cooking user and fan, and eating oranges on planes enthusiast.
I'm Megan Scott, co-author of the 2019 edition of The Joy of Cooking. I'm a food editor by day and avoider of dish duty by night, and I apparently have very strong feelings about granola.
To say the least. I'm John Becker, fourth-generation co-author and steward of The Joy of Cooking, America's oldest family-run cookbook. And when I hear the phrase, everything bagel, I take it as a challenge.
Tell them about your breakfast this morning.
Oh, well, I mean, I feel like that was...
You got to explain it.
Okay.
Yeah, I feel like every single intro that you do, there's like a needed explanation.
Yeah,
after the
there's
fact.
lore.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. So we get a dozen bagels at a time from Bernstein Bagels. Very, very good bagels. And then, we split them and we freeze them in a big, and, a few freezer bags. And then they're just perfect for like just toasting under a broiler. So, I explore, maybe not everything, but certainly anything that I can think of. And this week, I've definitely been on kind of I don't know. I saw some pork floss in the cupboard that really, I just feel like I had been neglecting it. So it was chive schmear and pork floss and red pepper flake.
Didn't you say you put pickled mustard on there as well?
Oh yeah, pickled mustard greens, Chinese pickled mustard greens, some fried shallots, and some cilantro.
How was it?
It was delicious. Definitely do it again. I don't know. I feel like maybe the pickled mustard green might have been a little too much.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
That was what pushed it over there.
Well, I mean, it's work in progress, the finding of everything.
So philosophical. What have you been? I mean, you've been traveling, Shannon.
Yes.
I feel like we haven't seen you for a few weeks.
I know. I have been traveling. I went back to the Midwest for some family stuff. And the pork tenderloin is just on so many menus in Indiana. And I always get like overwhelmed with that. I didn't eat any of it.
Really?
You didn't even have it once?
I didn't have it once. I was trying to keep it light. When I travel, I like to, not eat super heavy food. But my mom who lives in Florida now, we were just like, oh my gosh, yeah, pork tenderloin all over the place, all over. So
It's like that in North Carolina too. Pork tenderloin, giant also. Huge.
yeah, same.
Like
yeah,
fried pork tenderloin. Oh man.
it's fascinating.
I feel like it's not as big in North Carolina, though. From what I understand, if a pork tenderloin sandwich, if the pork tenderloin isn't like double or triple the diameter of the bun,
Yeah.
then you're doing something wrong. And in
Yeah, it's huge.
I feel like North Carolina's what? Okay.
No, they do that.
All right.
We haven't been going to the places where you get those sandwiches. That's the problem.
Well, remedy that.
Yeah, whose fault is that? Jeez.
But my mom's such a good cook. We don't go out to eat that much when we're visiting my family. So.
Yeah, we did. We had to eat out a lot because we were staying in a hotel, and I am so ready to start cooking again.
I'm sure.
I'm just feeling like worn down just from eating out so much. But
yeah, I know that feeling.
I did make tacos for my vegan grandfather, and I used tofu and I crumbled it and I put a bunch of spices in it, and his mind was blown. He had never used tofu that way, and so that made him really happy, and that was great.
That's so sweet. I love that.
Yeah.
Well, I've got granola on the brain because I've been making it a bunch. I made it for Canning Club this week because I didn't want to can anything. And two other people also made granola. So but we got to trade all of our granolas. It was cute, which seems so typical.
Might be the basis for a new club.
A granola club.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
But I got into a discussion not at Canning Club, but on the camping trip we did a couple weeks ago about how I do not put fruit in my granola. Like when I'm baking it or afterwards, I don't put any dried fruit in it. And people were like, well, why? And I was like, well, it's either going to get super dry and hard, or it's going to make your granola not crunchy anymore if you add it afterwards. And it was like, this was a new concept. And I was like, am I the only person who doesn't put dried fruit in their granola?
No, my husband would totally agree with that. He doesn't like that either, I feel like.
Well, he was entertaining the possibility that you could put fruit in your granola.
Oh yeah, he was like, I've never even thought of that.
Yeah, that was a fun conversation.
yeah, you were surprisingly, down on
Adamant.
it. Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't know I had that opinion until it came up. So
Do you use fresh fruit in your like yogurt bowl?
oh yeah, when I build the bowl, you put
Right.
fruit in, but that's when you put fruit in.
I agree with you. If I were on that trip, I would have been like, Megan's right.
I mean, that's my default answer.
What Megan is right.
Yeah, I work from there. Though that
I
is
remember that.
I don't think that's true, but we'll revisit. We also made our Joy Scouts recipe of the week, and that was the cheddar cheese ball on page 55. We made it for Canning Club. So it's got horseradish and bacon in it, and then we rolled it in fried shallots, like the kind you can get in the jar.
I actually would have fit in perfectly in Indiana.
Yeah,
I
I'm
should have
sure.
made it in the hotel room, just like rolling together a cheese ball.
And we served it with firecrackers.
good.
So that was, everybody always wants the firecrackers.
Our producer is like over here drooling.
Yeah, everyone wants the firecrackers. And so John will send people home with little baggies.
That's what I do. Then the cheddar cheese ball got turned into several cheddar cheese ball sandwiches, which I was just like, I really like the sound of a cheddar cheese ball sandwich because it just doesn't sound like it should work. Like there's a ball and then
Yeah, and the bread is square or rectangular. Like what's going on?
Did you put it on a bagel?
And everything bagel?
Yeah.
I should have. I mean, it's not too late. I think we still
have some.
Yeah.
Ooh, do it. Report back.
Okay. Wait, what did you put on the sandwich? The cheese ball sandwich you made the other day? There was something else on there.
I mean, do we have to really go into?
I just genuinely can't remember what it was.
I'm also now very curious.
Oh man, I wish I could remember. I did do something. I feel like it was potato chips.
Yeah, that tracks.
Those extra dark potato chips.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Highly recommend the Trader Joe's dark potato chips.
Hey, Joy of Cooking listeners, did you know the same family that taught America how to cook also taught California how to make world-class Chardonnay? The same joy and passion for life that inspired Irma Rombauer to write The Joy of Cooking inspired her great-nephew, Kerner Rombauer, to establish Rombauer Vineyards. Founded in 1980 in the Napa Valley, Rombauer has been producing acclaimed wines from California ever since. While they're famous for their iconic California Chardonnay, Rombauer crafts a diverse collection of delicious wines that bring joy to your table. Ready to taste the legacy? Visit rombauer.com/joy or use code JOYPOD, all caps, for 15% off your order. That's ROMBAUER.com/joy or code JOYPOD, all caps.
Must be 21 to enjoy.
We would like to welcome Sara Bir to the table. Sara Bir is a chef, writer, and plant nerd who aims to get people outside and looking at their everyday surroundings in a completely new way. She teaches classes for home cooks and has worked as a chocolate factory tour guide, sausage cart lackey, website editor, recipe tester, and restaurant critic. Her latest book is Pocket Nature, Fruit Harvesting, a petite guide to mindfulness through observing and savoring fruiting plants. Welcome to the show, Sara.
Hi, guys.
How are you? What have you been cooking this week?
Oh, I have a recipe development assignment from a grocery store chain that I used to work with a lot a number of years ago. And it's really great work because they just give me a list of things and they say, make this happen. So I don't come up with the ideas. I just troubleshoot and materialize them and come up with the recipes. I don't slow cook, and this story is a package of slow cooking recipes.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm trying to make it so that they are all just dump the ingredients in and turn on the cooker and go. Because I feel like anytime you're browning things or sauteing them first, it's a cheat.
Mm-hmm.
People who use slow cookers want to be able to just put the things in there, put the lid on, and get on with their day. So there are two recipes that worked out well, and I'm happy. And the third is a vegan lentil bolognese.
Ooh.
And it's being very problematic. The concept is good, but in the slow cooker, it is tricky because I've learned that the acid from the tomatoes doesn't play nice with the dry lentils. So they get tough. And you have to cook everything for so long that by then the minced vegetables have just dissolved into nothingness. And there's no flavor base. You're not building flavor the way you would with a traditional bolognese. There's no meat, so there's no bottom, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Normally I have cheat ingredients I would use, like I'd try to plop in some miso or some Maggi sauce, which Maggi sauce is probably not vegan. I don't think that's we make these mainstream, right? This is for a mainstream audience. So I put some soy sauce in there, and that was kind of like, nah, the lentils are tough. The tomatoes don't really cook down, if that makes sense. They're really tinny tasting and very sharp and acidic. And none of this is really making sense to me, because I know people cook with tomatoes in slow cookers, but maybe it's just like a jar and it's a soup and there's a lot of liquid to buffer it. So I'm very challenged, and I've tried all these little tricks, and it's just not working. So I finally emailed my editor, and I said, I asked for permission for this last trick I had, which is going to sound really whack. A bolognese sauce oftentimes has milk in it. That's a nice body, and it helps mellow out the, if there is wine or tomatoes, if that's in there, it helps mellow it out. And I definitely needed some mellowing with this sauce, but plant milk will curdle.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought, okay, what's something that a lot of people have that's going to lend some body to this really flat, mushy, has no fat in it sauce? And in the end, I used a couple tablespoons of tahini.
Okay.
Which worked pretty well, actually. I was quite pleased with that, but I didn't like any of the rest of it. So that's what I've been making this week, and I'm so excited to go back to things that I want to be eating and making.
Yes.
Once I finish with this delightful assignment that I feel happy to have, I'll just savor my regular ways of eating, which is like a pot of beans and some tortillas that I just eat on that all week.
So this no pre-searing requirement, is that self-imposed, or is that something that the person commissioning the recipes asked you to avoid? I'm just curious.
It's self-imposed. The story has a back-to-school slant. It's for a fall issue. And I imagine this is parents who are putting things together early in the morning before they're rustling their kids together and getting them off to school, and then they're heading to work. And the last thing I want to do before work is make pans dirty. Mm-hmm. I already have people pulsing vegetables in a food processor. I don't know. I think that's a pretty good way to save a lot of time. The other two recipes, there's very minimal knife work. So that was very nice. But yes, it's a self-imposed rule. I guess I like to make things hard, but I want these to be recipes that are worth making for people and also realistic. Somebody might skip the step of browning them, and then they'll be like, oh, this is gross. I mean, this is just a grocery store magazine, so I shouldn't be taking it that far, but...
I think that's a good instinct, to not have any browning or a bunch of pre-steps going on for slow cooker recipes. You should talk to my mom. My mom is the queen of the slow cooker. She used that thing probably 3 or 4 nights a week when we were growing up. Like, she would put stuff in the beginning of in the morning, and then when she got home, dinner was on the table in like 30 minutes. Magic.
What was your favorite thing that she made?
She made this, it was like a pork roast, and I'm pretty sure that she also used the Lipton's onion soup mix in it. I don't know what else. There must have been other things like liquid. I don't know, but it was delicious, and it smelled amazing when you walk in the door.
And that would probably substitute for some of the browning that is lacking. Yeah.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah, totally. I think that would be good eating, to be honest. I think you could get away with just having a nice pork roast and the soup mix, putting the lid on, and then all the liquid's going to come out of the pork roast, so you don't need to add any extra liquid. You'll have some nice concentrated flavor and a sort of thin gravy you could slurry if you wanted to. I learned that in a slow cooker, you can thicken it with cornstarch, but you need to like walk away for 15 minutes and come back. It's not a 30-second deal because it's not boiling rapidly. So yeah, I usually pressure cook. I'm a fast cooker.
I thought you were going to say something way weirder than tahini when you were telling the secret ingredient. I thought you were going to say something like non-dairy creamer. I was like, ooh, I'm waiting.
It's all vanilla flavored. I don't think.
Oh, yeah, that's really gnarly.
That would be extra weird. Vanilla non-dairy creamer in the bolognese.
You never know.
Yeah, vanilla in savory recipes is a Rubicon of some kind. I
You
don't
don't
know.
agree with it. I think it could work depending on what it is.
I know that it definitely happens in like coconut shrimp recipes and things like that. But yeah, there's something about it that just
Think out of the box.
doesn't feel right.
Sarah, what is your relationship with the joy of cooking?
My mom had a copy. I'm certain that's the answer you get from many of your guests. And hers was a 70-something edition. I don't know what year it was printed in, but it had the symbols next to the recipe. So that was still happening at the time. The freeze this and the, I don't know what the other symbols were, but it had the symbols. I know there's also a recipe for salt rising bread in that one. She didn't make salt rising bread. It just that blew my mind. I actually ended up making that years later, which is, it's such an interesting recipe.
Did you get it to, did it work for you?
I did. And you know what I did in the end? This, by the way, is a recipe where you make a starter, but it's not yeast based. It's based on bacteria, and the starter only lasts for one batch. You have to make a new starter from scratch each time. And people usually make their starter from raw potatoes or cornmeal or both in milk maybe or water. And I incubated it in my Instant Pot on the yogurt incubation setting. And once I did that, I was able to control a lot more of the temperature. And so the starter was nice and robust. And I had a couple starters. There was one that like I took it too far. So I kind of got the visuals down. And then it is a bread you use just like white AP flour and shortening. And so it's like a white sandwich bread, but the crumb is really dense. And because of the bacteria, it has a, it sounds so weird, right? We're used to bacteria and food being bad, but this is good bacteria. It has almost like an Asiago bagel taste. It has a little bit of a cheese aftertaste. And it's a bread that people usually toast. I bake bread sometimes because I like to toast it. I toast almost everything. So this is like my dream bread. I like whole grain things, so it's and I'm just too busy to mess around with starters every time I want to make bread every single time.
Yeah, that's a peculiar one. I feel like we had trouble getting it to work, but it's kind of notorious for
it's really
for it not working.
Really finicky. I definitely remember hearing about using an immersion circulator to get it started as well, because you need just that consistent, elevated but not too high temperature. We should revisit it.
Yeah, we should. My final question, or not my final question, but my final intro question for you is, what is your signature dish? Do you have a dish that you make, like you're going to the potluck and everyone expects you to bring this thing, or you always bring this thing, or you're always giving out the recipe to people because they always want it?
I suppose I do, and I bring it to potlucks because I want to eat it. I'm a fake vegan, and there's not usually a lot of vegan-ish offerings at potlucks, so I bring this. And also, I find there's a shortage of vegetable things at potlucks. This is a Moroccan sweet potato salad, and I learned the recipe when I was testing recipes for the Oregonian. They had a test kitchen there at the offices of the paper, and it was right next to the photo department, so the photographers were always coming in and just snacking on stuff. It was great. They loved everything. They weren't that great for feedback because they just ate everything. Journalists eat everything, apparently. So this recipe was developed, I believe, by Laura B. Russell, and you roast cubes of sweet potatoes. While that's happening, you make a green chermoula. Is that how you say that? Which is like this herby Moroccan seasoning. So it's got parsley and cilantro and garlic and paprika and cumin, lemon juice, olive oil. Well, there's probably some other magic ingredient. Lots of salt. And then you just toss that all together while the potatoes are warm. And you garnish it with toasted sliced almonds. And sometimes I put a little crumble of feta cheese on there. That's why I'm a fake vegan. It's delicious, though. And it's very nice at room temperature. That's another good plus for a potluck. And it's colorful. It really stands out on a potluck table. So that is the recipe I bring to things. And people do tend to ask me for the recipe.
That sounds so good. My grandfather, who I was just visiting, is vegan, and he's been like having a little bit of cramping in his hands and stuff. And I'm like, I think you need more potassium. He's talked to his doctor about it. Obviously, use your doctor's advice. And so I made him like a potassium basket of food. I got him like bananas and like sweet potatoes and, other things. And I'm totally going to pass that by him because he could make that ahead of time and just eat it throughout the week too, which I think is something that is really useful as well. Sweet potatoes are great.
Oh, I love them so much.
They're so great.
Yeah.
I've been eating them like constantly recently, but that sounds like a beautiful recipe and something easy to put together and filling and good for cramping hands.
And definitely chermoula, I'm a big fan. Chermoula is great.
It sounds great.
Yeah, I could just eat it with a spoon without the sweet potatoes.
Mm-hmm.
On a bagel, on an everything bagel.
Oh,
Yeah.
on a bagel.
Why not? Why not?
We're on the same wavelength. I understand.
We're big fans of Rombauer Vineyards. They're sponsoring today's episode, actually. But honestly, their wines are fantastic with so many Joy of Cooking dishes. My current favorite is their Sauvignon Blanc with our cow soy gai recipe. That bright, crisp wine cuts right through the richness of the curry. It's perfect.
Oh, absolutely. Being Oregonians, we take our Pinot seriously. We're excited about their new Pinot Noir, which pairs beautifully with our chicken jambalaya. The wine has enough body to stand up to all those bold Creole flavors.
If you want to try these pairings yourself, head to rombauer.com/joy or use code JOYPOD, all caps, for 15% off. That's ROMBAUER.com/joy or code JOYPOD, all caps.
Must be 21 to enjoy.
Sarah, can you tell us about your latest project, your book, Fruit Harvesting? What made you want to write about gathering fruit?
I've written 2 other books about gathering fruit. And that goes way back to, I think this is like maybe 2015 or 2013. I moved from Oregon to Marietta, Ohio, and I started going on hikes in the woods because there was a trailhead next to my daughter's preschool. And so I'd take her to preschool and I would have like some me time. And I was out on the trail once in September, and I saw this squashed fruit on just like smack dab in the middle of the trail. And it was bright yellow, and it looked like nothing I'd ever seen in Ohio. I grew up playing in the woods like all the time, but I did hear about this fruit called pawpaw, and I'd never seen it. It was like a Bigfoot of fruits, and I became aware of it when I was living away. And so I always was like, I wonder if I'll ever see one of those, but it wasn't too conscious in my mind. But when I saw this thing, I felt kind of certain it was a pawpaw. So I went back the next day and I saw another one that wasn't squashed, and I just tasted it, which you shouldn't do if you don't know what something is, but I take the hit for you. And it was clearly edible fruit. And I was just so beguiled by it because it didn't taste anything like I'd ever experienced in Ohio. It's bright and tropical and mushy. It's actually related to cherimoyas and custard apples. It's from that family. It doesn't keep very well, but the flavor was so good. I was trying to figure out how to use it in recipes, and all the recipes I found online were for pies or quick bread. And that's actually kind of a theme with any kind of weird fruit, actually. Pies or quick bread, and I love both of those things, but it just seemed like it wasn't a service to pawpaw, especially the flavors become really muted when you heat them.
Well, and pawpaws are pretty rare. It seems like, in order to make up a whole pie, you would have to like drown it in custard or something.
If you live where pawpaws are, they are so not rare. You can have
Okay.
a lot of people around here they'll just have rural property, and there'll be pawpaw trees on the property. And I always run into these people because I eventually wrote a pawpaw cookbook, and somebody will be aware that I did that. And I'll run into these people and they'll say, my uncle has pawpaws on his property and he lives about an hour and a half away. You can go forage there. I'll ask him. It's really sweet. But I have a place I go, and the hardest part is bringing them back because they get bruised. You don't want to put too many in a bag because they'll compress. So anyway, I had all these tricks for pawpaws, and I put them together in a little cookbook because I just didn't feel like they were properly supported with recipes online or in other folksy little old recipes from newspapers, maybe, I don't know. Inevitably, I branched out to foraging for other kinds of fruit, and I thought, well, there's a problem. People need to know how to prepare these fruits and what to look for, when to harvest them. And so I wrote a book called The Fruit Forager's Companion, and it had identification tips. It told you how to do everything, like soup to nuts with the fruit, right? And that was a lovely book to put together. But it turns out not a lot of people have this problem with fruit. I think everyone who does bought the book already. And so this book I was actually asked to write. It's part of the Pocket Nature series, and the approach is to use nature as a jumping point for mindfulness, just a way to recenter yourself. And that's completely what I always did with fruit. Actually, back before Pawpaws, when I lived in Oregon, I would take my dog on walks all over our neighborhood, and there was a house a couple blocks away with 2 quince trees. I can tell you exactly where if you want to hear later.
Yeah, I'll take the address, please.
I'll take it too.
I would sneak the quince from the yard because I noticed nobody was taking them. And over like a week, I could just get a whole bowl's worth, and I started making poached quince and membrillo and this and that. And it just got under my skin. I had to start looking for fruit everywhere. I think when you have a dog and then an infant and you're just pushing the stroller and walking a dog all over Portland, you start looking at yards for entertainment.
Well, and there's so much fruit. There's so much yard fruit here.
There's so much.
Oh my gosh, so much. I love visiting in August because what are the plums? Oh gosh. They have a name. I actually have it in my book. I should look it up. Sometimes I actually have to look at my book for reference when I'm working on something else. Right now is one of those times.
Good thing you wrote it.
It's a good thing I wrote it. But there are these small plums in Portland, right? They're dark, and when they're all over sidewalks, and they look like just like these blood splatters. And they have pretty large pits, and they're really jammy. Mm-hmm. You got to have like something pretty squishy, but they're delicious. They're really good eating. I love those. That's a nice Portland fruit.
Mm-hmm. My neighbor has one, and some of the branches hang over into my yard, and so I just take them.
Well, that's something we should talk about. What are the rules around harvesting fruit from somebody else's yard?
Well, I feel like in your book, you say the basic rule is don't be a jerk, right? I think
Yeah. If it's somebody else's quince tree, don't take it. Eventually, I got up the nerve to knock on that person's door, and they were like, "Quince? That's what those are." So I was actually helping them, but finally, I had their blessing, and I wasn't just some person trespassing and stealing. And I made some quince jelly and I left it on their doorstep.
Oh, that's nice.
I don't know if they did anything with it, but quince jelly is very pretty, and you can just put it in a windowsill, and then the light hits it like stained glass. Yes. So don't be a jerk, really. You can, if it's a park, like a city park, you can just ask the city, call the city. It's funny, we're so accustomed to using the internet or even like using, what's that thing, Chat GPT or something?
Yeah, whatever that thing is called.
Yeah, you can just pick up a phone and talk to a person, and it's really quite direct, and you'll learn all kinds of things. So connecting with people is the best way to find out if it's okay to forage or not. And foraging, to me, it's all about connection, and it's very much about people. I do a lot of it in a by myself, so it's a solitary pursuit. But the enthusiasm that other people have, and sometimes it's people you wouldn't even guess. Foraging for fruit, it transcends political beliefs and religion and ages and cultural background. It's a wonderful way to just get to your essential humanity, or that you're just part of the whole nature thing out there, all of us together.
I really enjoyed reading your book for that reason. I feel like you said in this other book, you have the soup to nuts kind of approach in this other book, but this one seems to be more concerned with like the conditions necessary to get you out the door, to be, like looking at the world with new eyes. And those eyes are particularly interested in finding fruit. It made me smile a lot. Really enjoyed it.
Oh, well, thank you, John. I guess the book is like a starter kit. It is to get to get people motivated to get out the door. And even I sometimes have to force myself. Like I was typing up revisions to the vegan bolognese today, and the minutes were slipping by, and I was like, oh man, I got to get out there while there's daylight because it's beautiful outside. And it's so easy to get sucked into other things. But when you balance out your digital life or your inside life, your slow cooker life, your researching things online life, when you balance that out with actual tangible experiences, tactile experiences, it helps you work better on the other things. Mm-hmm. It refreshes you.
I was also interested in like how you kind of positioned the book in relation to like the vast resources that we have that you were alluding to. Maybe not ChatGPT. I would not trust ChatGPT to do an ID on anything that I find in the woods. But, having like all of those, kind of iNaturalist and all these other apps that can help you like either keep track of where you find things or ID them for you or whatever. I was kind of really taken by, I think there was a line you had in the book where it was lingering in a zone of inconclusion, like the opportunity to actually like be in a space where you don't necessarily have the answer and I don't know. I want to be there. I really want to be in that zone of inconclusion. It kind of
wow, I wrote that.
You're very eloquent, at least I think.
Yes. One of the things that we can think of as a privilege now is to do things in slow motion. We want to have information right away. That's what we're accustomed to. But other people died years ago trying to figure out how all kinds of wild food work. So we don't have to. We have food in our kitchens that we can just eat that came from the store. And if we want to know what a certain type of butterfly is, yeah, you can just look in a guide. But if you look over the seasons and try to repeat it year after year too, you get better at noticing patterns. And once you finally figure out what that thing is or what it does, it's so much more gratifying because you're the one who did it. You weren't the first, but what does it matter? It's really empowering. And if you can do that, like what else can you do? So having the patience to figure things out just by watching them do their thing. It's hard at first, but it's really cool. I try to do it with birds too. I don't use the bird apps. I also don't see very well, so I don't think I'll ever be good with identifying birds, but it's still cool, still fun trying.
I like the idea of putting up a little bit of friction to yourself, trying to find out what something is when you're foraging or just walking around. Whereas instead of like looking at an app that tells you what it is right away, maybe you have to go to the library and check out a book and talk to a librarian, or
go to the library.
Go to the library, or like maybe you talk to somebody that who likes weird plants and want to see what they know about it.
Talk to somebody who also loves bird watching and say, this is what that bird looked like, and see if you can kind of like pinpoint what that was. I don't know.
Well, and getting back to the, kind of some of the inconsistent results that you can get from all of these, identification services, maybe it breeds a certain healthy skepticism to some of it, like being able to, having all of that at your fingertips, you start just taking it for granted and trusting, the results that you're getting from whatever kind of search you're using to find answers.
Yes. Just because a computer says a thing, whether it's an internet or artificial intelligence, it doesn't mean it's true. I've noticed so many incorrect fruit facts online. Like one was cranberries are the only fruit native to North America, and I can name like 15. But it's on the internet one place, and so you just see it repeated and repeated. And as a person who writes for the internet, that's a good lesson for me, that I try to double and triple check and find other sources to verify things. And if you can cross-reference with various media, so this is on a website, and then I saw this in a book, and my friend told me about this. I mean, that would take forever, but if you're able to do that at some point, it can really help. And actually, I think can help you with your cooking. I love when people learn what I do, which is a sort of like a cooking person, I would describe myself as, they ask me what I like to cook, which nobody wants to hear the answer to that. I like to take leftovers and make things out of them. Like that answer is so disappointing to them. And so once they're disappointed by that answer, I'd say, well, what do you like to cook? And they'll tell me, and I'd say, well, how do you make this? Or where did you get the idea for that? And I just end up learning so much. I get to be in somebody else's kitchen in a way. And that is so fun and special. It ends up helping me when I'm making up slow cooker recipes. And I think people love talking about cooking, and they sometimes don't get to do it that much.
Mm-hmm.
So I like to be the person who can provide that for them when they ask me the question and don't like my answer.
Yeah, I think part of creativity is like that interplay between, people. Like getting ideas from other people, or just, I think it's easy to stew in your own juices and kind of go around and around about something. And then you talk to one person and you have your aha moment, or you just think about it in a slightly different way, or it adds another dimension.
Yeah, what recipes used to go around from people talking to each other and sharing food with each other. And then newspapers were a way that people got recipes, especially if they couldn't afford cookbooks. And so that's a way things got spread around. But every time there's a new iteration, it's funny. It's almost like it closes some doors and it opens others. So I think about people who would normally never be making, I don't know, Bakewell tart, and they saw a video of somebody make it online and they decided they're going to, and they might not ever make things again because they got really discouraged, or they might be really into baking British things all of a sudden.
Oh, hello. I just wanted to take a moment to tell you about an easy way to enhance your meals. Whether they are a healthy vegan grain bowl or that late night snack we'll pretend didn't happen the next day, and that easy way is Marshall's Hot Sauce. For 15 years, chef and cookbook author Sarah Marshall has been hand-making and bottling these delicious sauces. She works directly with local farmers and highlights the lovely flavors of fresh seasonal produce. They're gluten-free, there are no additives, dyes, waxes, or binders, and they have mouth-watering combinations like serrano ginger lemongrass, or habanero carrot curry, or even whiskey smoked ghost, which was featured on Hot Ones. So head on over to marshallshotsauce.com, that's Marshall's, HAUTESAUCE.com, and see all the available sauces and spice blends. Oh, that's right. Sarah's created spice packets by dehydrating and freeze-drying actual produce, so you can impart flavor into your food with more vegetables. But that's a story for another day. Find all of these delicious creations at marshallshotsauce.com and enter HOTJOY, that's one word, capital H, AUTE, capital JOY, one word, at checkout for 20% off. That's HOTJOY at checkout for 20% off. And now, back to the show.
I did have a question about the size of this book. It's tiny, and thinking of where you were coming from when you started this project, what strategies did you use to, kind of decide on what to include in such a tiny volume? I mean, I know that there was kind of a prompt where it's like you should be like addressing the subject from like a mindfulness perspective, but it just seemed like such a challenge. We have the opposite problem where, we're trying to be as comprehensive as possible, but there's also a tension there where we're trying to keep it within a certain page count and whatnot. But this seems like a totally different problem, and it seemed like it might present a lot of different questions.
Oh, I like this question. Because I'd already written a very expanded version of it previously, I had an idea of how to pare this down to the essentials, which I'm really bad at most of the time. I'm a bit of a maximalist. And also, when I wrote this book, I was not very well. I'd had some health issues and needed to leave my job. And then I started getting a little bit better. And this opportunity came my way. I didn't pursue it, but it was a good way for me to test out how to get back into writing. And honestly, when I wrote it, I couldn't even go outside hardly. So it was a way for me to access that at a time when I couldn't. And the small scope was actually quite a gift and the opposite of a challenge. And also, this is the last book in the Pocket Nature series. They all have different authors and cover different topics. There's beachcombing and mushroom hunting and tree hugging. They all have adorable names like that. Oh. Mine is the most adorable.
Agreed.
And I was able to look at some of the other volumes, and they all have their own personality, but the format is generally the same. They all have these little moments, which I forget what they're called now. Some kind of exercise. Let's see here.
Oh, yeah. Activity.
There we
just
go.
Activity. That's it.
Yeah, they have activities. It's a really hard word to remember. They have these activities that are prompts to get you out of your head. The way I see it. We spend so much time in our heads, and the more you go outside and you're looking at living things, the more these boundaries start blurring. And instead of feeling like this one single person wandering around and everything's about your own individuality, you realize you're just a living thing and everything else is a living thing too. And it's such a relief. Mm-hmm. So the activities were a little bit of a starting point to take that giant concept and miniaturize it so you can process it a little better, just by looking at a flower.
I love fuzzy boundaries. It's great.
Yeah, I loved the last activity in the book, which is lose your ego.
Yeah, ego death. It's
like,
great.
Wait, what book am I reading right now? Oh yeah, it's about fruit. And then, no, I mean you're right though. Making the boundaries a little fuzzy and feeling like you're part of a bigger thing.
Yes, I think we all need that.
Yeah, I think we do need a lot more.
Yeah.
Every single day, I still have to remind myself every single day because I guess we're so programmed to exist the way we have been.
What is it about fruit that you think in particular helps get out of that space and into a more like I'm part of this whole and to lose your ego a little bit? Like what about fruit?
Well, you can eat it.
You can assimilate it.
Yes, and oftentimes it's delicious and sometimes it's bitter, but usually it's attractive. To be quite vulgar, it's just the sex of the plant hanging out there in full view. I mean, how can you beat that? Plant sex? Come on.
It's also cool because it's like fruit involves so many other beings sometimes too, like bugs or birds or whatever it is. So it's just like this really cool mesh of all of those living things that when you go outside and look at them, they're all kind of working together to create this delicious, yummy thing we get to enjoy and cook with.
Yeah, and you're like out there harvesting or foraging with the birds and the bugs and the worms
that
and
helped create
everything.
It's pretty cool. And they are pretty.
Mm-hmm.
If it was a different time of year, I would go outside right now.
Yeah, there's not a bunch. You might have camellias blooming. I mean,
Yeah.
it's not fruit, but it's pretty.
We have camellias, daffodils, those kinds of things, but no fruit yet.
Yeah, not yet.
It'll
We're getting
happen.
there. It'll happen. Yeah, I was greedily looking at all my fruit plants in the yard today, just kind of rubbing my hands together like a little squirrel and thinking, when are they going to be ripe?
My little blueberry bush is starting to have little leaves, so we're getting there.
Yeah, it's happening. It's happening. Okay. Every week we answer a caller question. This week we're talking about 5-ingredient recipes, which I'm sure you'll be thrilled to hear about. Sarah, Dirk, can you please read the question?
Can you give me your favorite, most simple to make joy of cooking recipes or recipes that have around 5 ingredients?
And I say Sarah will be interested in this question because we both are contract workers for simplyrecipes.com, which really specializes in minimal ingredient recipes. Not all, but there's a lot on there. And I thought this was a really interesting question because it made me and John think about, like, what is this question really asking for?
What is a 5-ingredient? What does that mean?
What does that signify?
Yeah,
What does a 5-ingredient recipe signify? Because obviously it's a finite number of ingredients, but are we talking about something that's, you can make in 30 minutes? Are we talking about, or is it just the ingredients are the limitation?
Yeah, I had a bunch of joke answers, like sauerkraut. Two ingredients.
A ham.
Yeah, I know. Baked country ham. We have a recipe for that.
You just have to soak it for like a week.
Yeah, you just soak it for 48 hours. No big deal.
One ingredient.
Well, a few. There was maybe three ingredients.
Also, this brings up the question, does salt, pepper, and oil count? Which I'll tell you, Simply Recipes does not. It does not count.
I've always wondered that.
Doesn't count. But people don't like that. Can you speak to that a little, Sarah?
Yes, I've been moderating the comments on Simply Recipes for a total of 5 years. And when people have feelings about ingredients, that's one of the top things people like to get salty about. No pun intended.
I liked it.
What is unusual is I think people are drawn to, I call them X ingredient recipes, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think people are drawn to them maybe to see how it can be pulled off. But because it very rarely can, unless you pretend that salt, oil, pepper, and sometimes even other things, water,
yeah.
Those don't count toward the total. You can't really make that much unless it's sauerkraut and country ham, and I don't think that's what this particular audience is.
I don't think they're looking for that either.
Well, and you were making the point, Megan, like that. Most of the stuff your grandmother cooks. Oh
yes, I was going to say my grandmother's the queen of the X ingredient recipe, because the way she cooks is if it's green beans, it's just green beans. It's green beans, maybe salt, maybe ham if there's like leftover ham. If it's corn, it's just corn and salt, maybe cream, but like that's the most. So her way of cooking is just cook the thing as simply as possible, usually.
But that's all
the odd casserole, but
right. But it's always in like a quote unquote meat and 3 context. Right?
Yeah, I would say her cooking is like meat and 3 kind of driven, which means like there's a piece of meat and then there's 3 vegetables and maybe a starch or like a roll or something. But a very cut and dry way of cooking everything, which I think is totally a valid way of cooking stuff. You can just cook the thing and have it simple. But we did compile a list of recipes. We're not just going to talk about the philosophy of the 5 ingredient recipe. John, do you want to start? You have so many.
Well, yeah, but I was, 5-ish to 6-ish ingredients. I did not count salt and pepper or oil. And then I was also a little wishy-washy about garnishes.
Garnishes can be left off. Yeah. I think yeah.
But the non-joke answers that I have, kimchi fried rice.
I had that one down too. That one's a really good simple recipe, and I love that it uses leftover rice because we always have that. And it has bacon in it, but you could use Spam, or you could not use any meat, or you could use like leftover roast pork or whatever you have around.
Yeah, no, whatever you have around. Indeed. No, also not to harken back too fast to something that we featured recently, but that Freekeh with greens, chickpeas, and halloumi, that is like an edge case. Like, we're talking 6-ish, but I feel like that's really simple, and it's also got, a pretty svelte ingredient list. Mm-hmm. So
we also, one of our Joy Scouts recipes, what I wrote down was that grapes and sausages dish, which I thought was fantastic.
It was delicious.
And it's so easy. I think it was literally 5 ingredients.
Maybe. I think it had even less. I think it was
so simple.
Sausage, grapes, rosemary, and optional balsamic vinegar. Yeah, I wrote it down.
I was like, that's a great option as something that feels more elegant than you would expect it to be in like the amount of ingredients that came into the dish.
Yeah, I specifically didn't include that one and several others because I felt like one of the kind of like unspoken assumptions about the 5 ingredient recipe is also that it has to have like kind of a one pot element, or it has to at least combine like a carb and
you could add couscous to the grapes and sausage,
True.
and I think that would be 5 ingredients probably.
Or just have bread.
True. I mean,
okay.
Why not?
That's an interesting assumption, though, that you think it should be like a main.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not clear on the genre. Mm-hmm. Speaking of genre, this is like a bona fide genre of cookbook. There are over 200 titles that have 5 ingredient, like either in the title of the book or in the subtitle. of the book, which I thought was
There's a draw to
I
it.
felt like that was a lot, though.
Yeah, that's a lot. I also had down tuna or salmon poke because that's very simple. You can kind of complicate it if you want, but at its heart, it's a super simple thing to make, and you just need some rice. And then Becker Burgers. So Becker Burgers are John's dad's way of making. Could you talk about this? You're the one who has eaten a million of them.
Yeah, no, I've eaten a lot of them. Yeah, how to describe it? They're pan fried burgers. They are big and they are not designed to go in a bun. It's more of like if you are going to serve it like with bread of any kind, it would be like a toast open face situation because there's pan juices that get made in the process, and it's like a medium rare burger. So you want to be like pretty picky about where you're getting your ground beef and stuff. But yeah, he would make that all the time. It was definitely like a weeknight situation for him, and I really like it with mac and cheese, and and maybe some really garlicky and buttery broccoli. That's my personal how I would serve it.
And those are surprisingly delicious burgers. They have like, once you've seared it or browned it, you add soy sauce, port, and black pepper. I think Tabasco.
Yeah, dash it. Come on.
That's like Ethan Becker's like signature is if there's soy sauce and port and Tabasco in it, it's probably his recipe.
Yeah, no, that's his signature triumvirate of ingredients.
Can you think of an ingredient someone could substitute for the port if they don't have? Because I feel like that's not a common thing that you would just have around. I feel like any kind of liquid plus maybe a little bit of vinegar, like a touch of vinegar perhaps to kind of...
You gotta have some sweetness in there. Whatever you got.
I think balsamic
little
vinegar, maybe, sherry. Everyone has sherry around.
Yeah,
Oh, God. Maybe you could do, this is going to sound crazy, but I think it would work. If you had some kind of wine-ish alcohol and then a little bit of fruit juice and then apple cider vinegar or red wine vinegar or something. So you would have the sweetness, but also the grapey, winey, fermentiness. Yeah, that might work. I really like the sound of these.
They're great. They were kind of panned by the New York Times, but they hadn't made the recipe, so they don't know what they're talking about, respectfully.
Yeah, make the burgers, Kim.
Yes. Another recipe I had written down was horchata with sausage and broccoli rabe. That is a great recipe and super easy. It's just like Italian sausage, garlic, broccoli rabe, horchata, and a pecorino romano.
All the requirements that all
your
assumptions.
Self-imposed requirements to make this even more difficult. So a good place to look, there are tons of these recipes. They're kind of buried because it's such a big book. But if you look under quick recipes in the entertaining and menus chapter, there's a whole list of easy, quick recipes. And not all of them are going to be 5 ingredients or fewer, but a lot of them are.
Just some ones that I really like that kind of fit the vibe, at least. Shoyu chicken, very, very good.
I counted that. It had like 6 ingredients, and I was bummed.
Ish. We're going with ish. And fish boulangere, that's delicious. And
sounds fancy, but is quite simple and very good.
Yeah, pearl onions is like the fanciest thing about that.
You could probably not use those, though.
Yeah, no, you could definitely like chop, do biggish chunks of onion or have some
get the
shallots.
Frozen pearl onions. That's fine.
Yeah. Lasagna. That totaled up as 5. I thought that was hilarious. That's an edge case. It could be a joke. It could be real. It depends.
It's easy because you're making many servings, so then you have leftover lasagna.
That's true.
Which is good, and it's good frozen, as Shannon can probably attest, because I think you're going to eat some later.
We're eating your frozen lasagna for dinner tonight.
Yeah, comes in handy to have
it's
lasagna
great.
around.
We didn't want to cook tonight because I had the podcast, and I was like, we've got that delicious lasagna.
There you go.
And we're trying to eat more vegetarian this week, so perfect.
Nice.
And for this week's Joy Scouts recipe, we wanted to stay on theme, so we picked a 5-ingredient recipe, and it's the quick peanut butter and jelly thumbprints on page 785. It's the simplest peanut butter cookie recipe you can imagine. It barely has any flour in it, and then you can use whatever jam you want in the thumbprint, but they're so easy and quick to make and delicious. So that recipe is on page 785 in the 2019 edition. If you make it, please tag us at The Joy of Cooking on Instagram. We would love to see what you make. If you have a cooking question or joy story to share, call our hotline at 503-395-8858. Leave us a message or send us a text. We would love to hear from you. Dirk, can you please play next week's caller question?
Hi, I'm calling for the Joy of Cooking podcast. My name's Delaney. I'm from Seattle, and I love a good caramelized onion. We have a Seattle dog here that caramelized onions typically go on, but I'm curious about some other recipes that caramelized onions would be really great with. I'd love to hear back from you guys. I love the podcast. Thanks. Bye-bye.
All right, so next week we'll talk about how to use caramelized onions. How to not use them is the question.
I was actually about ready to make that very same
Bagels.
comment.
They definitely would go on a bagel.
Yep.
Yeah, they fall under the everything category.
What is everybody making this week or thinking about?
I'm eating your lasagna tonight.
Lovely.
That's all I'm thinking about right now.
Are you
I'm
making
excited.
a salad with?
Yes, I've been making this chopped salad. I found the dressing recipe is so simple. I found it. I think it was probably on TikTok, and then I saw it on Instagram. And it's just a whole lemon, olive oil, salt, pepper, fresh grated garlic, and a splash of distilled white vinegar. And I've been putting it on all of my salads. It's so good. I can't stop eating it. So that's what we're.
So the whole lemon goes in the.
It's just
in
like
the
you juice
blender?
all of just juice the whole lemon, olive oil as much as your heart wants, salt, pepper, grated garlic, and a splash of white distilled vinegar, and it makes it so fresh and delicious. So in general, I'm just trying to eat more veggies because I was in the Midwest and traveling for a week. So
Understand.
Yeah, that's real.
yeah. But thank you for the lasagna.
Yeah, you're welcome. You're so welcome. What about you, Sarah? What are you thinking about other than lentil bolognese?
Oh gosh, I just need to get past it. Okay, I have a recipe for bunny chow. I'm a member of the Rancho Gordo Bean Club, and a couple months ago, black garbanzo beans came in the shipment. I like them. They're a little toothier than regular chickpeas, garbanzos. And because they're so dark, I think visually you need to be strategic with them. But in the cookbook East, what's her name?
Mira Soda?
Yes. She has a recipe for bunny chow, which is almost like a chana masala in a hollowed out half loaf of white bread. It's a South African thing.
Ooh.
And I've always wanted to make it. And hers has black chickpeas. I can't get that kind of bread here. I don't need to bake a whole loaf of cottony white bread to have this supposedly easy dinner that I'm going to make with these dried chickpeas. I'll have to soak for like 3 days and then pressure cook. So it seems like it'd be a simple little meal, but it won't be. I'll probably never make it, but every week I have a list of things I'm going to make. Bunny chow.
Put that at the top of the list. That's like me with certain items in the crisper. If they last a long time, like kohlrabi, man. Like I got to do something with kohlrabi this week. I put it on my list and then it doesn't, it just continues to sit there. Good thing it lasts forever. Yeah. John, what are you excited about making?
Congee. It's still cold enough for congee time.
Yes.
And our friend Anna shared her hack of basically just briefly soaking rice and pre-portioning it into containers and then freezing it, and then that actually cuts down on the simmering time.
Because when the water freezes, it kind of starts to break the grain down a little bit.
Or yeah, when it thaws.
Yeah.
So yeah, I froze a bunch of this rice that we were not going through fast enough. It's like some of that Haika rice. Looking forward to various permutations on that.
I'm looking forward to that as well. I'm going to keep testing recipes. We're still testing recipes in the soup chapter. So I've got an escarole and white bean soup on my list for this week. And we cooked up a bunch of we're also in the Bean Club, Sarah. All the best people. No, I'm kidding. There's a silly waiting list for it. It feels a little ridiculous because we've been on it for years. And so we didn't have to go through the struggle of like waiting. But we got these Peruvian limas, the jumbo Peruvian limas. They're giant and they're so good. They remind me of the Royal Corona beans, but they're just big and meaty and like they do really, really well in like saucy preparation. I don't know. They're great. So I'm going to put those in there, but it'll be an escarole and white bean soup for any white bean can be in there. Any bean can be in there. So yeah, I got soup on the brain. And Sarah, before we wrap, where can listeners follow you?
Only on Instagram. I'm a mono social media person. Sausagetarian is my handle.
And we'll put that in the show notes.
Which I think is really funny, by the way.
It's really good. Thanks for listening to the Joy of Cooking podcast. Before we go, show some love for your favorite podcast by subscribing to the show and leaving us a review. Follow us at joyofcooking.substack.com and on Instagram at thejoyofcooking. Stay tuned for next week where we'll talk about caramelized onions. And don't forget to make this week's recipe quick PB&J thumbprints on page 785. Call in with questions, hopes, history, or where you find joy in the kitchen. Our number is 503-395-8858. That's 503-395-8858.
And we couldn't do this without our fantastic team at the Joy of Creation production house. Thank you to Dave Drusky, our production coordinator, Haley Bowers, our audio engineer, and Dirk Marshall, our producer.
If you love the stories we bring you each week, please consider supporting us on Patreon. As an independent media company, your support is absolutely essential. It allows us to continue creating high-quality professional episodes that amplify the voices of women, small business owners, writers, artists, and creatives, and keep their stories free from commercial pressure. By becoming a Patreon member, you're not just supporting us, you're investing in the future of independent media. Please visit patreon.com/The Joy of Creation Production House to join our community today. Thank you for listening and supporting our podcast dreams.